So, so anyway, like I said, I want to make this a sharing type session because Ross, I know you're going through paradigm shifts. I know your head hurts. And I definitely want to hear them. Tom, you too. I know you have a lot of things going on, a lot of observations to share, and so on and so forth. So we're just going to do this as sharing. I'm just going to try to do it more of a little more. So I'll start it off, get myself out of the way so you guys can share what you guys have. So anyway, what I want to share with you is I'm a connoisseur of Kabbalistic teachings and writings and books. I'm always
Now can you hear us?
okay. Yeah, I can. I don't know what happens. Okay. Yep.
Good.
Okay. So I'm a connoisseur. I read like there's no tomorrow. I listen to podcasts. I go to videos on YouTube. Hold on. Come on, shut up.
He's talking to you, Ross.
He's out in outer space and he's having to yell, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
Who the hell's out there?
There is no sound in space, so I don't get it. Something's going on.
That's why he couldn't hear us.
Oh, that's right.
Wait, space out here or space that's in here? So you know that about me. You know how I like to draw from all sources that I possibly can. I recently started listening to another group that I have not listened to in many years, actually about 4 or 5 years. I had a falling out with the group, which is quite common with me. I'm always having falling outs, simply because I ask questions, not because I get rude or mad. So it's not behavior. It's just, there's certain holy grails you just don't touch in the groups. And every group has their own little holy grail that they have. Now, typically with Kabbalah, the holy grail is usually like a rabbi. Oh, don't question the rabbi. He's dead, therefore he's immortalized. There's a danger in that. I don't agree with that. Also, you have people who call themselves Kabbalists. If you ever have anyone call themselves a Kabbalist, I don't care if it's a rabbi. Run. Don't stay behind. Don't just run. You're only a Kabbalist after you die, not while you're living. While you're living, you are a student of Kabbalah. So I'm a student of Kabbalah. That's the highest I'm willing to go, as long as I'm alive. Also, we have to understand. So with this, I've decided it's time for me to share some of my observations, because whether we like it or not, Kabbalah is becoming more and more of a subject that we cannot avoid anymore. It's becoming something that is totally part of our culture, part of our search. And we're even starting to see it mentioned a little more here and there, just on ordinary videos. They may not know what they're talking about, but sometimes they'll use the word Kabbalah, and sometimes they're touching on the concepts of Kabbalah, but they don't say Kabbalah. I'll get a drink of water here. So, with that in mind, let's step back for a moment and touch on a subject. What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah, I don't care how you call it. I go between the two so people get comfortable with both pronunciations. Okay, so Kabbalah is a verb. It means to receive. So that's why you're a student of Kabbalah. You're not a noun. A Kabbalist is, well, that's more of a noun to me. It's a person who's achieved a certain level once they pass away. So Kabbalah is a verb, and it means to receive. That's all it means. I'm sure you heard a Kabbalah, Shabbat Kabbalat that is sung on Friday evenings in the shul. Well, what does that mean? It means receiving Shabbat. It means receiving the Shekinah, receiving the mother of heaven, so to speak. So it's a verb. It's receiving something. So we had to answer that, okay, so it's a process of receiving. So if you are a student of Kabbalah, that means you're receiving. But what are you receiving? That becomes next question. Well, in terms of generically speaking, when we talk about Kabbalah, we're talking about spiritual connection between us and the Creator. We're not talking about knowledge per se. We're talking about a spiritual connection. We're talking about an intimacy between us and the Creator. So Kabbalah can also be a collection of works. So it has sort of like two definitions. The Zohar is a Kabbalistic text. Sefer Yetzirah is the Bahir, various writings by Moshe de Leron, or the Ari, or Ashlag, or Cook, or Brandywine, and so on and so forth. These are a collection of their writings and works in which they share what they received. The whole idea of Kabbalah is you receive something, you share it. That's why I'm so big on that word sharing. We receive, we share. Now, with receiving and sharing, it's important that we make sure the quality of what we're receiving and the quality of transmitting on is as accurate as possible. This is one of the reasons why you will find me sometimes when we discuss various topics that I will sometimes dig my feet in and I won't move. It's not because I think I'm right. It's because I'm at a place where I'm fairly comfortable what I'm saying is correct. Does it mean I'm right? No, it doesn't. But what it means is I have to work a little harder, or whoever's talking to me, or I have to work a little harder to try to understand the other person, because guess what? They may give me a piece of information that may tweak my understanding of things. And that ends up being a paradigm shift. So that's what we do here. Now, while listening to these podcasts, these videos, these readings, whether they're from books, and I read from many, many different authors, many, many different people. Some are not so wonderful. It's like they're new at it, but they have this arrogance that they think they know everything. And then I see some people who are very, very good. They're very humble. They share what they know or what they've learned, and it's pretty good material, but the world doesn't recognize them at all. So last night, I actually sat down with myself and I said, okay, what's the difference between what I'm seeing happening with Kabbalah versus what it should be? I am noticing that Kabbalah is slowly, when I talk about Kabbalah, spiritual teachings and stuff, I've noticed it's starting to be slowly institutionalized. It's being institutionalized by academia. I'm not saying these are bad things, but it has to be recognized what category they're in so you understand the material you get and you know how to digest what they're giving you. But it's slowly becoming institutionalization that's taking. They have a certain niche market that they work on. And so they have their vocabulary. They got their website. I know some of the people there, and I'm not impressed with their teachings. I think their teachings are good, but I'm not impressed for where I'm at. And I'll explain a little more in a moment what I mean by that. So there's a lot of sources we can go to try to get information and try to raise our awareness and to learn more of the spiritual mechanics that are taking place, such as the last video I did with the 10 Sephiroths, explaining how Zeir Anpin, the heavens, plural word, was made into the six by the 6 days, and then we as man had, let us plural make man in our image. Who's us? The six sephirots are speaking. We'll make man in our image. Anyway, that's the mechanics. That an example of the mechanics that we learn from spiritual mechanics that we learn from Kabbalah and the spiritual events that take place. Okay, so let's push this on a little more. So I sat down last night and I just meditated on this. And I had this conversation with my soul saying, I know something's not right. What is it? Why am I having an allergic reaction to all these different Kabbalistic institutions? What's the issue? Because I don't want to judge them. They got good material. But what is it that's not setting right with me? And I went back and forth and trying to say, okay, well, this group teaches this. And that's not far off. That's pretty good. That group teaches that. That makes sense. This group, I said, well, is it a matter of taking all these different perspectives and having to glue them together into a simple, singular, cohesive manner? Because I've been doing that. That's how I came up with, or not came up with. That's why I shared about those six sephirots coming out of Zeranpin, because pith here, pith there, I put it together, and this is what it's saying. And I'm very good at that type of pattern recognition. So after about, oh gosh, I don't know, about half an hour, all of a sudden it dawned on me. Where is the love of God being taught? If you don't teach the love of God, I don't care what it is, the love of God in Kabbalah, love of God in Talmud, love of God in Torah, love of God in Mishnah, love of God in whatever works you can think of, Judaica works or spiritual works. It's useless. It's meaningless. This is why I started meditating, because I'm trying to raise myself to a higher level of love for my Creator. So let's take a look at the word love for a moment. The love is ahava in Hebrew, and really it means something being given. It's not a taking. It's not a taking love like we experience in our world. It's a giving love. That's why we are to receive and share what we receive with others. That's a love. That's love in action. But I want to go a little further, and because what came to mind was, what about you and your wife? Do I love my wife because she obeys me? I put down in quotes for anyone who's listening to this, so the women to come after me. I love my kids because they obey me. So does God love me because I obey his commandments, his moral codes? No, it's not what love is. He loves me because he created me and because I'm a part of him. But let's flip this around and look at it from our perspective, because it's not a question of him loving us. It's us. It's a question of us loving him. So how do I show my love to my wife? How does my wife show her love to me? Simple. I could be sitting watching TV and she'll say, I baked a cookie and here it is. She made me something out of love. She offered to me out of love. She anticipated a need and she gave it to me out of love. I do the same thing with my wife. I could look at her, or she'll be out doing something and I know she's going to be thirsty. So I'll put some water in a cup for her and I'll take the water and I'll bring it to her. And she says, oh, you just read my mind. Thank you so much. And she gives me a big hug. That's the intimacy. That when we talk about connection between us and the Creator, yes, we are talking about a level of awareness. We are talking about consciousness. But what we're really talking about is mind melding between us and the Creator. We know what the Creator likes. Does he like us because we obey his commandments? No, because in reality, he gives us commandments and basically says, it's your choice, do it or not. I still love you. So whether we do the commandment or not, we are to still love him. Yes, we can use commandments as a means to show our love. But when we take a look at, if we take the commandments out of the Torah text and we look at the vast majority of the rest of it, it's teaching us how God thinks. It's teaching us how we're supposed to think. It's an example of love being given to us because, let's face it, we read the Torah, the whole Tanakh, I'm surprised we're still alive. But he loves us so much, he's not going to destroy us. He's going to give us opportunity to come to our senses. That's our free will. Eventually, we will say, you're mine. So we have to raise ourselves to a higher level through love for the Creator, not an emotional love. We're not talking about, oh, you make me tingly, butterflies in my stomach type stuff. Talking about that. We're talking about a true connection between us and the Creator. And that's what's missing. I'm going to say all of the Kabbalah institutions that are out there. I'm not saying I've listened to all of them out there, but all those that I've listened to so far are lacking that story of love. Again, not a love do as you freely want to, but a love that disciplines, a love that has compassion when you make a mistake, a love that says, okay, hold on, Dave. You're trying really good, but boy, you're messing things up. Sit back, relax, and let me show you a few things so that you're better next time. That's the love. We want to have that love to listen, that love to learn from the Creator. Too many, if not so far, all of those that I've listened to, what I'm talking about Facebook groups also in this whole mix. They miss this love concept that we need to apply to our learning. And without it, we end up becoming idol worshipers of teachings, ideas, concepts. And we're talking about good things being made bad because we don't love the Creator. It becomes a system of checks and balances versus, I screwed up again. Please help me. I'm trying. You know I'm trying. Give me credit for an A for effort here. And what happens? God blesses you and all of a sudden opens your eyes to a few things. You start seeing things. Go, oh, I now I know what I'm doing wrong. Thank you. So it's this love connection, love connection, love connection, love connection. Wasn't there a game show called Love Connection back in the 70s? Yeah, okay. We're all old enough to remember this, right? Some a little better than others.
And
Anyway,
Love Boat.
Love Boat. So that's my message for us, is that we need to press ourselves forward into this love. Otherwise, we're going to be serving the wrong side, because there's a good side and a bad side to Kabbalah. And it all depends on that factor of love that we have for the Creator. Again, not emotional love, and a dedicated, intentional love, a submissive love, a joyous connection. So keep that in mind as you read and digest materials from other places. And I'm sure, Tom, with all the reading you've done, now that I mention it, you probably are going to notice it now. I don't know if yeah, you have. Okay, that's what I figured. So it's just the love for the Creator. Unfortunately, we get too caught up in the love of gaining knowledge rather than in the name of God, rather than in gaining knowledge, the art, intimacy between us and the Creator, which is love. And that's why the Zohar is written typically in a very sexual innuendos
Yep.
in it.
Yep.
It's there. It gets quite arousing, and I don't mean arousing in a physical sense, but definitely in an intellectual, spiritual sense. There is an arousal that takes place, and it is our job as students of Kabbalah to from here arouse what's up there, and we create that arousal of Zer Anpin, and then we get that Taurus flowing thing going on. Get that Taurus, it's like a pump. Get that energy flowing, that arousal that takes place. So that's where I wanted to end this. And if you have any questions or thoughts you want to add, by all means, Ross will start with you, and then we'll go to Tom, and then we'll get started with the sharing. Okay? So it's you, Rick.
I have material here that fits a great deal of what you said, and I'll reserve that for last.
That's fine. Thank you. We'll definitely get to that. Okay, Tom, you're
Yeah, one thing I've noticed that I've appreciated in the writings of the Zohar is the fact that they always have a tendency to bring in the Song of Solomon into the whole picture. And I thought, that's beautiful because it is truly about that union and that oneness, the da'at, that sexual union, that intimacy. So I do appreciate that. And I do agree with you that there are many that, and I mean, I haven't read a lot of stuff like you guys have, but what I have read, I have noticed that there sometimes is a push to perform, to do something, not out of real love, but out of a fear, see, one thing that took place with me initially, years and years and years ago, was that Hashem revealed to me that love was a sense of awe. It wasn't a sense of condemnation and I know that, the judgment is there, that love works in that type of a way, but it always wants to bring me back to a place of balance. So yeah, I do see that, and I agree with what you're saying, and I appreciate what you've shared. That's very, very true. Even to receive something, when I sit down and I study, which I do a lot, in the Torah and the Zohar, I do think it's a real act of love to be able to receive his mind and his heart in a loving way, to be able to share that on a practical level. That's one thing that excites me, is that if I'm seeing something, if Hashem opens up something to me, that I'm reading in the Torah or in the Zohar, I always wait to see how I can practically give that out, not necessarily from the intellect, but from my heart, and sharing and moving in specific ways, which seems to carry the light of Hashem on my arms and my hands and how I express myself. So that's what's been happening with me. So I appreciate that. Thank you, David.
okay. Great. So yeah. So we're supposed to reciprocate that love back, and you don't hear that spoken of, because that really does fill in the cracks of our image when it comes to dealing with the Creator. All right. So